Good morning, everybody, and thanks so much for joining us for this month's edition of the Japan 2020 Digital Show. I'm Will DuPree at KXAN in Austin, Texas.
And I'm Andrew Marden at KSEE-TV in Fresno, California. Will, this is our last monthly live stream before the games start on the 23rd. We're going weekly in a couple of weeks.
That is true, so we'll talk about those plans a little bit later in the show, but can you believe that we are here? It is finally the month of the Olympics, Andrew.
I know, it's crazy, and we've got tons of headlines to talk about, so Will, let's dive right into it. We're going to start with Sha'Carri Richardson, who won the 100 meters at the track and field trials in Eugene, Oregon a couple of weeks ago. She will not run the 100 meters in Tokyo because she tested positive for a chemical found in marijuana. During a live interview on Friday on the Today Show, Sha'Carri Richardson said she smoked marijuana as a way to cope with the recent death of her biological mother. She was given and accepted a 30-day suspension that ends July 27th, which would be in time to run the 4x100 meter relay. USA Track and Field, though, has not shared its plans for the relay. Richardson, with her orange hair and long nails, you couldn't miss her. She apologized for the failed drug test and promised it would never happen again. The United States Olympic and Paralympic Committee released a statement about Richardson. The USOPC wrote, "While we are heartbroken, the USOPC is steadfast in its commitment to clean competition, and it supports the anti-doping code. A positive test for any banned substance comes with consequences, and we are working with USATF, that's USA Track and Field, to determine the appropriate next steps. We are dedicated to providing Sha'Carri the support services she needs during this difficult time."
Turning now to some familiar news from Japan. The COVID case count is climbing there, as we have talked about for months now, and the number of vaccinations is slowly rising. That's some better news there. But if you take a look, these are some of the latest images coming out of Japan. Face mask wearing is still very prevalent there. The World Health Organization reported almost 1,200 new infections today. Meanwhile, the number of vaccinations administered in Japan exceeded more than 37 million. The Associated Press reports a quasi-state of emergency ends on July 12th, with the possibility of a full state of emergency in force when the Olympics open. The Japanese Prime Minister says he's still uncertain whether spectators can be allowed at the Tokyo Olympics because of that growing concern about the spread of the coronavirus.
Will, organizers are also suggesting more safeguards against the virus may be needed. That's something that, of course, people don't want to hear. By the way, the Delta variant has been found in nearly 100 countries around the world, not to scare everyone there. The president of the Tokyo Organizing Committee, Saiko Hashimoto, spoke to reporters about this issue, the more safeguards, last week. She said, quote, "To hold the Tokyo 2020 Games, I will continue devoting myself into getting rid of worries and concerns among Tokyo residents and the nation. To hold a safe and secure Olympics, I need to put more effort into it." Organizers earlier announced they'd cap the number of spectators at 10,000, 50% capacity up to 10,000. However, they keep reminding people that could change depending what happens with the virus.
Now, Andrew, while we know that foreign fans are still banned at the Olympics, and that was ruled out a little bit earlier this year, the U.S. government will still send representatives to the opening ceremony. That delegation may include First Lady Jill Biden. Japan formally extended an invitation for President Biden to attend. However, the White House press secretary said recently that he will not go.
Very soon, Will, I will be there. Our Next Star team will be there in Tokyo to cover the Olympics. We actually leave next Saturday. We leave next Friday, the country. We arrive next Saturday. Before we do arrive in Japan, though, each of us wanted to spotlight an American athlete, somebody to highlight, somebody to, get behind, cheer as the games approach. We're going to kick things off by introducing all of you out there to athletes competing in two different sports, golf and track and field.
What a difference a couple of weeks make. When Nelly Korda showed up in Grand Rapids to play in the Meyer LPGA Classic, she had just missed the cut at the U.S. Open. Her spirits were down, and the Olympics was not exactly at the forefront of her mind.
we still have a lot of golf in front of us, so maybe ask us that question closer to it.
Yeah, and a lot of Americans are playing well, so it's going to be a tight one.
Any frustration from the U.S. Open letdown was taken out on Blythefield Country Club. Nelly shot a blistering 62 on Saturday and set a tournament record, finishing the four-day tournament at 25 under par. Afterwards, she was doused with champagne by her older sister, Jessica. Even then, Nelly wasn't ready to talk about Tokyo.
Oh, I still have a big event before that, so wherever it takes me, I'll go.
Her position was solidified, but Jessica still had work to do. It's long been a dream of the Korda sisters to play for their country, especially on the Olympic stage.
I mean, it would mean a lot, obviously. Every time you get to represent the United States is amazing, and stars and stripes, exactly.
Well, the following week at the KMPG, the Korda sisters locked up their spots on Team USA. Nelly won her first major, making it back-to-back wins on the LPGA Tour. Jessica locked up the fourth and final spot. They're both headed to Tokyo.
It's an amazing opportunity to represent our country.
And as the #1 player in the world, she'll be one of the favorites to win gold in Tokyo. On the journey to Japan, I'm Jack Doles.
Grant Holloway was just shy of setting a world record in the semifinals of the 110-meter hurdles at the track and field trials. He left no doubt he's someone to watch in Tokyo.
Set. I think I'm ready. You know, I was that kid, you know, watching it through YouTube, through NBC, on the TV. Now I'm going to be actually on that, you know, on that stage.
With a dominating performance at the track and field trials, 110-meter hurdler Grant Holloway is on his way to Tokyo.
I don't want to take it for granted. I want to make sure I'm healthy. I want to make sure I'm mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually prepared. And as we get out there, then, you know, I'm just going to execute everything to the best of my level.
A native of Chesapeake, Virginia, and a record holder at the University of Florida, Holloway ran 12:81 in the semifinal heat. Just shy of the 12:80 world record, he easily won the finals and says he's preparing to take on the world's best.
Got 10 hurdles each round, and that's the simple way to think about it.
The 110-meter hurdles will start on August 3rd. On the journey to Japan, I'm Maria Elena Boloris.
It's not a stretch to say Galen Rupp is one of the best distance runners in U.S. history. He qualified for the Tokyo Olympics back in February of 2020, after he won the U.S. marathon trials in Atlanta. Tokyo will be Galen Rupp's fourth time competing at the Olympics. He has 2 Olympic medals. He won bronze in Rio in the marathon. He won silver in London in the 10,000 meters. In 2017, Galen Rupp finished second in the Boston Marathon, then won the Chicago Marathon. In 2018, he won the Prague Marathon. In late 2018, he had surgery to correct Haglund's deformity. He had a bony enlargement on the back of his heel. Galen Rupp is from Portland, Oregon. Now 35 years old, he is an 8-time U.S. champion in the 10,000 meters.
And Andrew, speaking of track and field, you actually went to the Olympic trials in Oregon to cover that event.
I did, and let me first say that Galen Rupp does not look like he's in his mid-30s.
No, he does not.
He still looks like he's about 25, 26 years old. But yes, Will. So our company asked me to go there a couple of weeks ago, and it's crazy because it's been about 2 weeks since I was there. But what a whirlwind to be in Eugene, Oregon, which, you know, they call it Tracktown, USA. It is the mecca of track and field, not just in this country, but arguably the world. Hayward Field is a $200 million facility. It was funded mostly by Phil and Penny Knight and some other donors, but it's brand new. They had to literally tear down the old Hayward Field, which they want to refer to as historic Hayward Field. The new Hayward Field is spectacular. And yeah, I was there to cover the track and field trials for you know, our 30-plus NBC affiliates across the country, did live reports in a bunch of different markets. Obviously, our reach was pretty far, kind of like what we're doing with this live stream. And, you know, the goal was just to get people excited about the Olympics, of course, cover the big name athletes, you know, the storylines coming out of the track and field trials heading to Tokyo. And there were some huge ones. Allison Felix going to her 5th Olympics was huge. Ryan Krauser setting a world record in the shot put. You had the Sha'Carri Richardson story. before the marijuana part of that came out, the fact that she, blistered the field in the 100 meters, and the U.S. has not had a gold medal winner at the Olympics in the 100 meters since 1996. So obviously they were hoping that Sha'Carri Richardson could potentially erase that. And then on the negative side of things, you had Donovan Brazier not qualifying in the 800 meters. Will, he was the reigning world champion. He finished dead last in the final. So that was actually kind of shocking.
Yeah, that is shocking for sure. And then another moment on the medal stand is what got a lot of people talking at the trials too.
That's right. Yeah, you're referring specifically to GWEN Berry, the hammer thrower, who, when she was on the podium because she came in third place, she put a T-shirt over her head when the national anthem was playing. Now, GWEN Berry, again, a hammer thrower, and she said that she was set up. Organizers refute that, saying that the anthem was scheduled to start at that time that evening, so it played as planned. The White House press secretary was asked about this issue and addressed it.
I haven't spoken to the president specifically about this, but I know he's incredibly proud to be an American and has great respect for the anthem and all that it represents, especially for our men and women serving in uniform all around the world. He would also say, of course, that part of that pride in our country means recognizing there are moments where we are, as a country, haven't lived up to our highest ideals, and it means respecting the right of people granted to them in the Constitution to peacefully protest.
Now, a previous sign of protest from GWEN Berry led to a rule change by the USOPC. At the Pan American Games 2 summers ago, she raised her fist and faced a sanction that ultimately led the USOPC to commit to not punishing athletes who peacefully protest at the trials or in Tokyo. But as we know, the International Olympic Committee may not be as lenient because it has said it will enforce the rule that bans protesting at the Olympics. Well, we're just a couple of weeks away. We will see what happens in Tokyo, but this certainly has been an issue since last summer, really. I mean, I don't want to get too political here, but you go back to the George Floyd murder, you go back to the Black Lives Matter movement. This has been a hot button issue, not just in our country, but in the world. And, the Olympics has always been a protest-free zone. That may not necessarily be the case in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, certainly something to watch for sure. And moving along now in our show, we also want to show you a few more athletes that you might want to watch when the games start a little later this month. And so let's check out who our team is showcasing in skateboarding, taekwondo, and wrestling.
This is the first time skateboarding is an Olympic sport, and this pro is hoping to go for gold.
Born and raised in the Sunshine State, Jake Alardi is hoping to shine on the world stage in Tokyo.
It's definitely surreal. Like, I never thought I would be a pro skater coming from Osprey, let alone one of the first Olympians in America, and especially for skateboarding.
Jake went pro last November, and he's already skating his way to the top.
Now I made it, it's not over yet. Like, I still got to work on some new tricks and dial in the current ones and get ready for it's going to be a heavy competition, so I got to get ready for it.
He secured his spot in the Summer Games, ranking 7th in the world at the Street Skateboarding World Championships in Rome, and 2nd overall in the United States, putting him in a great spot as he heads to Tokyo.
I can't wait to go out there and just show out for everybody. It's going to be a good time.
On the journey to Japan, I'm Alyssa Marino.
For Victoria Stambaugh, the Tokyo Olympics have been a long time coming.
I was able to have my Olympic qualification tournament, qualify for the Olympics, and then boom, next day shutdown happens all across the world.
The Puerto Rican Taekwondo Olympian had her ticket to Tokyo, but when she would get to compete was another story.
I was very at peace with whatever decision was going to be made, whether it was going to be that year or whether it was going to be next year.
That extra year would be a blessing in disguise for the Houston area athlete.
6 months before my Olympic qualification day, I had the biggest knee surgery of my life.
It would be her hardest one to date.
My last knee surgery in 2019, they had to do a meniscectomy where they took out at least 80% of my entire meniscus. So when I found that out, I truly thought, like, I have to quit.
She's gone through 6 knee surgeries in total, leaving her with 17 scars. But it's Victoria's faith and determination that keeps her going, and it's that faith that she will lean on while in Tokyo.
My ultimate goal for competing at the Olympics and being there is to glorify God. And honestly, if that means, you know, gold or silver or bronze or no medal at all, I'm going to be at peace with that.
Outside of the Olympics, Victoria and her fiance opened up a Taekwondo school during the pandemic. The goal? To teach the next generation. On the journey to Japan, I'm Candy Rodriguez.
If you are talking about Team USA medal chances in wrestling, you can't leave out the name Kyle Snyder. The Maryland native went to college at Ohio State, winning 3 NCAA titles. And in 2015, he became the youngest world champion ever at just 19 years old. A year later, in the 2016 Rio Olympic Games, Kyle became the youngest ever Olympic champion at just 20. It capped off a remarkable run in which he became the youngest to win the World, NCAA, and Olympic championships all in the same year. Now, 5 years since that incredible feat, Kyle knows the target is on his back as he goes for gold for a second time.
I'll let my talking happen when I'm on the mat. You know, I don't really, the thing that I really care about is getting the job done and winning when I'm on the mat and wrestling the way that, you know I can wrestle.
In the last 2 world championships, he has finished 2nd and 3rd respectively, giving him plenty of motivation to finish on top of the podium this time in Tokyo. On the journey to Japan, I'm Matt Barnes.
Yeah, Andrew, it's so cool to see these different athletes that we're highlighting. Some names that maybe people aren't familiar with, like a Simone Biles or a Michael Phelps or someone to that effect.
Did Victoria Stambaugh say that she was missing 80% of her meniscus? How was she able to compete?
I know.
You kind of need that. It's important.
It's impressive as well that she's out there, you know, going for gold.
Yeah, well, I mean, Team USA is now over 600 athletes officially, Will, and I think there's still, you know, a couple of athletes that might be named to the team, but the team is, you know, and I talk about team as not just the individual sports, but Team USA is pretty much set at this point, and you know, we'll see how many medals all of our country's athletes are able to take down in Tokyo. Somebody who obviously is going for a medal that wasn't sure if he was going to be able to have that chance. You know, it's been an eventful and at times confusing journey to Tokyo for boxer KEYSHAWN Davis. Back in January, he turned pro, which disqualified him from competing at the Olympics. But because the pandemic disrupted the Olympic qualifying process, he is now able to go to Tokyo. And he has a good shot at winning gold in the lightweight division. Davis is from Norfolk, Virginia. He says it means the world to him to represent Team USA, and he can't wait to compete.
This Olympics is going to be a special Olympics. Nobody in the entire world is never went through the things that we're about to go through. And if we come out, when we come out on top, winning that gold medal, that's going to be something to remember literally for the rest of your life, because we live in a pandemic and we won a gold medal through the pandemic.
Can't argue with that. The boxing team is currently in Japan training, but not yet in Tokyo. Boxing competition at the Olympics begins on July 24th, which is the day after the opening ceremony. By the way, Will, the USA softball team has also arrived in Japan early yesterday morning, which I think was yesterday morning Japan time, which might have been the day before our time, or maybe I have that backwards. I'm not really sure.
It's a whole very complicated process for sure.
The time difference, Tokyo time, it's plus 13 hours. So we're actually going to be in the future when we get to Japan from everyone back here in the United States. But USA softball has a chance at winning a gold medal. There are only 6 teams in softball, so half the teams in the field are going to win a medal, which is kind of cool, kind of nerve-wracking when you think about it, because there's a lot of pressure on there to be one of those 3 teams that wins a medal. Team USA has won 3 gold medals in softball. The last time softball was competed at the Olympics was in 2008, and Team USA did not win the gold medal, so you know they want that.
All right, well, we'll definitely watch them, as long as another athlete that we're going to feature now. We've got one more athlete profile to show you, and this one you're going to see in the pool competing at the Olympics.
Fitting that in an unprecedented year, an unprecedented type of athlete will make waves in Tokyo. When 27-year-old swimmer Andrew Wilson toes the line inside the Tokyo Aquatic Center, he will make history as the first Division III swimmer to compete for Team USA. 2 second-place finishes at the U.S. Swimming Olympic Trials in the 100 and 200-meter breaststroke sealed the Maryland native's spot on the Olympic roster. Wilson was a 10-time D3 national champion at Emory University in Atlanta and still holds Division III records in 5 events. His 100-meter breaststroke time was just .01 seconds behind first-place finisher Michael Andrew and good enough for 4th fastest all-time in the event by an American. Keep your eyes on Andrew Wilson. Wilson's first event will be the men's 100-meter breaststroke on July 24th, with the 200-meter breaststroke beginning July 27th. On the journey to Japan, I'm Justin Cernsey.
And we want to thank all the members of our Olympic coverage team who turned in those profiles to be able to let everybody there who's watching know who to maybe look out for when the Olympics start later this month.
And you already mentioned it, Will. You know, people know the big names. So they're going to know Simone Biles and Katie Ledecky. They're going to get to know Caleb Dressel, Nyjah Houston in skateboarding. He's a guy who's got, I think, 4.5 million Instagram followers.
Wow.
Somebody who is the highest paid skateboarder in the world, and somebody who I think had an endorsement deal when he was like 11 years old. And so these are names. Some of them are big names. Some of them are not household names. But it's nice that we have a good variety there of people to talk about. But the one sport that we haven't actually gotten to yet, which I know you're excited to discuss, is gymnastics. And of course, it's going to start with Simone Biles. You know, we don't have the Fierce Five that we had back in the London Games in 2012, but there are certainly some gymnasts to watch. And Will, I understand that, of course, you recently had a conversation with someone who was in St. Louis for the gymnastics trials.
Yeah, that's right. I talked to AJ McCord, who's a sports reporter and anchor out of our station in Portland, KEYSHAWN, and she, of course, has a very big connection to the sport. She is a former competitive gymnast herself, so we discussed everything, going to the trials, what that's like, and also her past in the sport. So let's take a listen. Well, you just took a trip to St. Louis to both cover and experience the U.S. Olympic trials for gymnastics. I am so jealous of that assignment because it's my favorite Olympic sport. But just give us a sense of what that was like to just be a part of that kind of high-stakes, exciting environment.
It was a wild environment, especially after this year of COVID where there have been very few crowds at least. This was a situation where there was like 21,000 people in the building at some point on Sunday. And so it was really, really cool to be in the arena. And I think Simone Biles is going to go down, is already the greatest gymnast of all time, right? But she is going to, her legend and how good she really is going to only grow once she retires from the sport. Between her and then Jordan Childs, who's a Vancouver, Washington native, right across the river from us here in Portland, it was a really special moment to get to enjoy and just sort of take in some of the best gymnasts that Team USA is going to be sending to Tokyo.
What will be amazing is to see the generations of young gymnasts who come up inspired by these young people who are competing at the moment. Their legacy will live on for so long. And I wanted to ask you about your experience with the sport. Tell us a little bit about that.
I was in it from 2 until 18. Yeah. I was doing the Mommy and Me classes like 2 or 3 days a week, and I was never close to as good as any of the girls that we saw, any of the women that we saw over the weekend in St. Louis. But I did live that life. I lived the go to school, go to the gym at 3:15, work, like practice until 7:30 or 9:30, and then come home, try to do homework, get up and do it all over again. I lost a lot of weekends to traveling for meets. And it was a sport that I'm very grateful for, and it also required a lot of me.
AJ, thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate it, and I cannot wait for us to discuss in the future how the Olympics unfolds. What are you looking forward to most with Tokyo?
I'm just excited to watch these women do something that they have dreamed about, have done, have put themselves through so much to achieve. It's all happening next month in Tokyo.
And we want to thank, obviously, AJ McCord for joining me yet again last week to talk about the Olympic trials. It was funny, Andrew, as we were discussing kind of getting ready for the interview, I had spent about 15 years as a gymnast, and she was about that time too. And what was funny is hearing her talk about how whenever she gets up out of bed, how her back cracks and her knees crackle and that kind of thing. And I was like, wow, that is very similar to my own experience.
Well, hopefully you're not in pain anymore, Will.
No, all good. Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's how it is too. I mean, sometimes, you know, just getting up and going to the refrigerator for a glass of water, you can hear some bones creak or something pop or crack or all that stuff too. But no, hearing people talk about something that they're passionate about, that gets, I mean, I can't speak for anyone but myself, but that gets me excited, because hearing somebody else's passion as a storyteller gets me, you know, hyped up and wanting to tell stories. And I should mention this about AJ, by the way. She and I, we've known each other from a distance for many, many years. I know she's been part of our company's Super Bowl team out here in California for many years. I've kind of produced and anchored a West Coast training camp special. We've done an NFL show for stations up and down the West Coast, and so I've communicated with her back and forth. I never actually met her, though, until I went to the track and field trials, because our station that she works at, Coin TV in Portland, they also sent a crew to Eugene. And so I met AJ and Travis Tyke and their photographer, Jihad Harvey, who I worked with. I met them a couple of weeks ago in Oregon. Terrific team. They've got a great staff there at our station in Portland, but it was kind of interesting. I met AJ for the first time at the track and field trials, and then a couple of days later, she goes to St. Louis for the gymnastics trials. So she's been all over the place too.
Darting all across the country too. And I will say that AJ will join us at different times during our upcoming streams later this month to talk specifically about gymnastics. So we look forward to continuing that conversation. Before we go, Andrew, I also want to let people get a sneak peek of what it looks like inside the athletes' village. So the beds that are going to be where the athletes are sleeping are made out of cardboard, if you can believe that. And there's also going to be some isolation facilities for potential COVID patients, as that becomes a concern still too. So if you take a look, organizers recently took reporters on a tour of that sprawling village built along Tokyo Bay that includes 18 residential buildings. The athletes' rooms, as we just mentioned, include a bed made of recyclable cardboard and other sparse furnishings, as you can see. The village also has a complex of isolation rooms where athletes or staff members will receive tests if they're suspected of having COVID. Athletes will be tested every single day in the village after being tested at least twice before leaving home and again upon arrival. There's also individual plastic dividers in the gym and all the dining areas to help keep people apart. So what happens to all these apartment buildings after the games conclude? Well, Andrew, I looked that up, and they will actually be sold for other people to live in once the Olympics and Paralympics conclude. So kind of interesting that it will have a second life after this very, very big event.
I'm guessing that when people purchase it for real, though, they might replace the cardboard beds and put a more traditional bed in those apartments.
One would hope.
Yeah. By the way, speaking of COVID numbers, one thing we didn't specifically bring up on this show, and Dr. Thomas has joined us, monthly for the last 7-8 months.
Yeah.
The last number that I read, according to I believe the Huffington Post, is Japan's inoculations are up to about 12%. So better than the 2% that we've been reporting for months, but still not at the point where you can safely feel like you can walk around the country of Japan. We, again, were told, you talk about being tested for the athletes, Will. We were told that we were going to be tested regularly. We also need 2 negative COVID tests within 96 hours of us leaving the United States. We're going to get tested again upon arrival in Japan. So they're taking this thing very, very seriously. There's one more headline that I want to mention really quickly because, Will, I thought it was worth discussing. Kevin Hart and Snoop Dogg are going to be hosting an Olympic highlight show during the games, putting their take on I think they're calling it a comedy sports presentation. So that might be something to check out because I think that'll be very, very funny.
Yeah, we'll have to tune in for that as well. So many competitions to watch and now an after show as well. Who knows what will come out of this, too. Andrew, I just want to say it's been so great co-hosting this with you. I know Aaron Cargyle started things off, and then we transitioned to bring you into the team, and I know that we'll keep talking as you're in Tokyo, and I'll be reporting from here and bringing you all in to provide updates. So I'm really looking forward to that, too.
Yeah, thanks so much. It's been fun, Will. Obviously, it's also helped with my preparation because anytime we can talk Olympics headlines, I've got a notebook that's just that of you right here where I'm constantly updating facts and figures, athletes to watch out for. And our goal is by the time the Olympics go July 23rd through August 8th. And I say July 23rd, there's actually competition that starts on the 21st. You've got softball that starts then. The women's soccer team actually starts on the 21st. And fun fact about that, they beat, they won last night 4-0 in their last tune-up before they actually, get to the Olympics. They're playing Sweden in their first game, and that's the team that they lost to in the quarterfinals in 2016. Team USA Soccer, is still frustrated about that because this is the team that bounced back and won the World Cup in 2019. But you've got competition that starts before the opening ceremony. So technically it goes July 21st through August 8th, even though officially the Olympics are July 23rd through August 8th. By the time we get back to the U.S. and we arrive back or touch down back at LAX on August 10th, the hope is that we provided all of our affiliates throughout the entire country a sense of what it was like to be there. Certainly different, in a year unlike any other, year and a half, go back to the pandemic, wearing masks and all that stuff. But it'll be fun. And we're going to start a weekday live stream on July 23rd, and that's going to go through, I believe, Friday, August 6th, correct?
That is correct, and it will be at 12 Central Time, so if you're living in another time zone, just figure that out for yourself, too. But, yeah, we'll be providing that live stream on Facebook as well as your station's website, so please tune in.
Yeah, well, you talk about the time difference. It still won't hit me what time it actually is until I get there because my role is to do live reports for stations in the evening, which means it's going to be super early in the morning for me out there. And I'm not necessarily, an early morning person. I don't wake up typically at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning. I applaud the people who work morning shows because that is something that I'm just not used to. But when I get to Tokyo, I'm just prepared for, I won't even call it sleeping. I'm just prepared for napping. Give me a couple of hours just to, close my eyes when I can throughout the course of each day. And it's like a marathon. I'll hit the wall at some point, but I'll finish. And hopefully I'll sleep on the plane coming back.
Yeah, there you can catch up then. Well, before we go, Andrew, I also want you to just highlight our team. So here's the full team of our Next Star reporters that are going. So if you could just explain who people will be seeing once the games begin.
Absolutely, and we've seen their stories, on our websites, on social media channels, certainly over the air over the last 18 months. You saw their stories on this live stream. So I guess we'll go left to right. We've got a team, including myself, of reporters that work at NBC affiliates all throughout the country. We're coming from 7 different cities within our company's ownership group. You've got Matt Barnes, upper left, based in Columbus, Ohio. Maria Elena Baloris at our station in Norfolk, Virginia. Justin Surensey, below those two, works at WHO-TV in Des Moines, Iowa. Jack Dole's in the middle. We joke about it, but we call him the Godfather. This will be his 11th Olympic Games, so he's the veteran of the group. He's based in Grand Rapids, Michigan. He was pretty bummed about Donovan Brazier not qualifying in the 800 meters because Brazier was, the favorite to win gold, and that would have been a nice local athlete from one of our affiliates. Melissa Marino from our station in Tampa, Florida. There is me from KCTV in Fresno, California. And Candy Rodriguez, right from your neck of the woods, Will, at KXAN in Austin, Texas. But fun fact about Candy, she actually is from Reedley, California, which is about 40 minutes from Fresno. So she works in Austin, but she's actually from the Central Valley of California. So looking forward to working with these talented individuals. And yeah, our live reports begin on July 21st.
All right, Andrew, thank you again for joining me each month to talk about everything Olympics. And we will talk to you again very, very soon. I know you've got some packing and some preparation to continue to do before you head to Tokyo. So again, we really appreciate you being here.
My pleasure, Will. Thanks so much. Yeah, when it comes to me, I don't pack until the last minute.
Oh,
so
my gosh.
Either the day before or that morning is when I'll pack. I've got a list of everything I need, but I'm a very good packer, but I am a procrastinator when it comes to packing. So
you are making me nervous already. All right.
You're not the first person to say that.
Andrew, thank you again. And everybody who's watching, we appreciate you watching today. And we will see you back here later this month for our weekday streams starting at 12 Central on July 23rd. So we'll see you then. Andrew, thanks again.
My pleasure. Thanks, everyone, and hope everyone had a great 4th of July.